that everyone is behind her. Definitely, yes, yeah. And hopefully it'll get justice for her, because that's the big thing now.
Gardaí carrying out a preliminary investigation outside the house where the remains of a mother of two were found this afternoon.
On the afternoon of the 4th of October 2004, a Montessori school in North County Dublin could not reach a parent. A 30-year-old woman named Rachel O'Reilly had failed to collect her youngest son, Adam, at the usual time. Staff called her mobile phone. There was no answer. They called again. Still nothing. The school contacted her husband, Joe. He told them Rachel was probably with a friend. He wasn't worried. By the time Rose Callerley, Rachel's mother, arrived at the family home in the quiet rural townland of the Knoll, unlocked the front door and walked inside. It was mid-afternoon. She found her daughter on the bedroom floor. Rachel O'Reilly had been dead for several hours. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. The injuries were consistent with a sustained attack. There were defensive wounds on her hands and arms. No weapon was found. No witness had seen anyone enter or leave the property. The front door had been unlocked. There were no signs of forced entry.
Gardaí carrying out a preliminary investigation outside the house where the remains of a mother of two were found this afternoon.
Rachel Callerley was born on October 10, 1973. She was adopted as an infant by Jim and Rose Callerley, who raised her alongside 3 other children in a close family in North Dublin. She was sociable, grounded, and practical. At 17, she took a part-time job in a local shop. Joe O'Reilly was one of the customers. They began a relationship that lasted, in one form or another, for the rest of Rachel's life. Joe proposed in Paris. They married in 1997. Their son Luke was born in March 2000. Their second son, Adam, arrived the following year. In 2003, the family moved to a newly built home at Lambay View, Baldara, on the edge of the Knoll, a small village set in open farmland north of Dublin. Rachel worked in sales from home, allowing her to be present for the boys. Joe managed a depot for Viacom, an outdoor advertising company based in West Dublin. He commuted each day. People who knew the family described them as settled. A couple in their early 30s with 2 small boys and a new house in the country, putting down roots. It was, by all outward appearance, a life built together. The morning of 4 October 2004. Rachel's last morning followed an ordinary pattern. She woke, dressed the boys, and at some point before 9 a.m. drove them toward the village, Luke to school, Adam to the Montessori. A CCTV camera at Murphy's Quarry, located half a mile from the family home, recorded her car passing at 9:03 a.m., traveling toward the village. Both children were with her. At 9:41 a.m., the same camera recorded her car on the return journey. She was alone. She was heading home. Somewhere between that moment and midday, Rachel O'Reilly was killed inside her home. No one reported seeing a visitor to the property. No neighbor reported anything unusual. The house sat at the edge of the village on a quiet road. A killing had taken place inside it, and the morning had continued around it without interruption. Joe O'Reilly was at work in Dublin. He had left the house before dawn. When Gardaí arrived that afternoon, he was contacted and came to the scene. He was visibly distressed. He could offer no explanation for what had happened to his wife. The investigation began. Investigators examining the property found a scene that raised more questions than it answered. A number of items were missing: jewelry and a camcorder. This raised the possibility of a burglary. But Rachel's handbag, which contained cash, had not been taken. And within hours, the missing items were recovered in a drain in a field adjacent to the property, along with bags bearing O'Reilly family travel tags. Items stolen from a house do not typically end up in the garden. One item in particular drew investigators' attention. A dumbbell, part of a set kept in the family home, was missing. It was not found at the scene, in the garden, or in the surrounding fields. Given the nature of Rachel's injuries, a weighted blunt object of that kind was consistent with what the post-mortem described. Forensic scientists found bloodstain evidence in the bedroom where Rachel's body was found, and also on the door of the washing machine in the kitchen. The post-mortem confirmed multiple blows from a blunt instrument. No weapon was found in the house, the garden, or the surrounding fields. The staged appearance of the scene pointed towards someone familiar with the property. But familiarity alone is not evidence. Gardaí needed more. Joe O'Reilly was interviewed in the days that followed. He was cooperative. He answered questions. He described his movements on the morning of the 4th of October. He told Gardaí he had risen early and gone to the gym with a work colleague named Derek Querney. The two had then travelled to the Viacom office at Bluebell, and later that morning had visited bus depots in Phibsborough and Broadstone, where Viacom managed advertising on the fleet. He had returned to the office around midday. It was a full account. It was specific. It had a witness.
Why? Why, Rachel? Why then? What did she do, in your opinion, to deserve this? Are you going to do it again? If you are, you need help. What you've done is wrong. You've taken away a very young life for no good reason. I feel I know you because you had to kill her. You couldn't leave her alive to identify you. So it's a matter of time before you're found.
He also disclosed in the same interviews that he had been involved with another woman, a colleague in the advertising industry named Nikki Pelly. He described the relationship as over. He told investigators the names of people he thought might be worth looking into. He cooperated fully with the investigation.
Based on the situation you both found in the house, did you get the sense that she'd been taken unawares, that this was someone that perhaps she trusted
Yeah, I think so. Where the murder happened was in the bedroom, which is the very last room of the house. So it's the room where you're least likely to bring someone you don't know because you're cornered. My view as well would be, and again it's just my view, it's not a police theory, it's just my own personal belief, is that she knew the person, because why else would you kill her? If it's a violent robbery, why go to the extreme of murdering the person unless they can identify it? And that's why we've talked about this and practically nothing else for the last 3 weeks. We just feel it's someone she would have known or someone she could have identified.
To those around him, Joe O'Reilly appeared to be doing what a man in his position should do. He sat with Rachel's family. He attended her funeral. He stood at her graveside. Gardaí continued to work through the evidence.
Gift of life to me. And
Rose Callally singing at her daughter's anniversary mass, showing just how strong she has remained since Rachel was murdered 2 years ago.
Oh, I feel that everyone is behind her, definitely, yes, yeah. And hopefully it'll get justice for her, because that's the big thing now.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Over the weeks that followed, investigators worked through the available material. Detective Garda Sian Fitzpatrick reviewed CCTV footage from 119 separate cameras across Dublin City and North County Dublin, bus depots, road cameras, industrial estates, petrol stations, road junctions. It was painstaking, time-consuming work. The footage confirmed some of what O'Reilly had said. He was recorded arriving at the Viacom office at 7:37 a.m. He left the office at 8:07 a.m. He returned at 11:48 a.m. Between those two times, a gap of more than 3.5 hours. Joe O'Reilly did not appear on any of the 119 cameras at any of the locations he claimed to have visited. No footage placed him at Phibsborough. No footage placed him at Broadstone. Derek Querney, his alibi witness, was confirmed on camera arriving at the Broadstone depot reception at 9:26 a.m. O'Reilly was not with him. Phone network data from O2 placed O'Reilly's mobile handset near the mast servicing the Knoll at 9:25 a.m. and again at 9:52 a.m., the window during which Rachel was killed. The Phibsborough and Broadstone depots are more than 25 kilometres from that mast. A camera at Murphy's Quarry, the same camera that had recorded Rachel alive at 9:03 a.m., recorded a navy-coloured estate car consistent with O'Reilly's Fiat Marea passing toward the family home at 9:25 a.m. At 9:59 a.m., a car matching the same description was recorded travelling in the opposite direction. At 10:07 a.m., a text message was sent from O'Reilly's phone to Rachel's mobile. It read, "You and the boys sleep okay? Wish Jackie a happy birthday for me." Network data placed the message as sent from a mast near Blake's Cross, on the N1 motorway south from the Knoll toward Dublin City. The evidence was serious, but it was circumstantial. A car that looked like his car. A phone near a mast. A gap in a CCTV record. Defense counsel would argue that cameras miss things. Mass data is approximate. Estate cars are common. Nikki Pelly and Derek Querney were arrested in November 2004. Both were released without charge.
Shortly before 10 o'clock tonight, the man who's the Gardaí's chief suspect in the killing of Rachel O'Reilly was released without charge.
Neither provided new information that advanced the case. By the end of 2004, no arrest had been made, no charge had been brought. The case was open. The weapon was missing. The investigation continued. And then, in early 2005, Rachel's father told Gardaí something. At Rachel's funeral, before the coffin was sealed, Joe O'Reilly had placed a letter inside. He had told no one what it contained. He had told no one he was doing it. Rachel's father, Jim Callally, had become aware of it and, in the months that followed, informed the investigation. Gardaí applied to the court for an exhumation order. In March 2005, 5 months after Rachel's death, her coffin was opened. The letter was recovered, sealed inside a plastic sleeve, and entered into evidence. Joe O'Reilly had written, "See you later, Joe," and another letter that was 5 pages, and included the following passage. "Rachel, I love you so very, very much. I cannot think what I will ever do without you, and I don't want to think. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and you will never be replaced. This is the hardest letter I've ever had to write, for reasons only we know. Rachel, please, forgive me. 2 words, 1 sentence, but I will say them forever. Joe O'Reilly, the grieving husband, the cooperative witness, the man who had sat with Rachel's family, attended the funeral, stood at the graveside, and quietly placed a sealed letter in his wife's coffin asking her forgiveness. The man who, investigators now knew, had been conducting a 9-month affair with Nikki Pelly. The man whose alibi witness could not place him at the depots. The man whose phone had connected to a mast near the murder scene at 9:25 a.m. while he claimed to be on the other side of the city. The man who had sent a text message to his dead wife's phone from a road leading away from the Knoll at 10:07 that morning. The picture that had been building quietly for months came into full focus. The emails. Joe O'Reilly's work laptop, recovered from Viacom, contained more than 9,000 emails and fragments. In messages to his sister, he had written that Rachel repulsed him. He wrote that he would rather choke than attend a dinner with her. A series of emails related to a complaint made to social services about Rachel's parenting, a complaint that investigators established had originated from an anonymous caller within O'Reilly's circle. The revised alibi.
The jury was given details of an exchange of emails between Joe O'Reilly and his sister Anne on the 9th of June 2004, 4 months before Rachel was killed. The packed court was quiet as the emails were read out. Afterwards, Rachel O'Reilly's mother, Rose Callally, and her sister Anne were in tears.
Derek Querney, under questioning, acknowledged that he could not be certain of his timings. He confirmed he had previously covered for O'Reilly when he left work early in connection with the affair and had agreed to do so. A second alibi witness, who had said he saw O'Reilly at a depot on a rainy October morning, was contradicted by Met Office records confirming that the 4th of October 2004 was dry and sunny in Dublin. Nikki Pelly's statement. Nikki Pelly, charged separately with withholding information, gave a statement to Gardaí. She stated that before the murder, O'Reilly had told her he would kill Rachel if he believed he could get away with it. She said she had not taken it seriously at the time.
Ms. Pelly told the court she and Joe talked about being together permanently in the future. When she was first interviewed by Gardaí, she told them it was just an affair. She said Joe told her she should say that. Asked why, she said it was because if she said it was a relationship, it would give him a reason to kill Rachel.
A comment at the funeral. A friend of O'Reilly's recalled him making a remark at Rachel's funeral about the murder weapon. He said it was in the water. No weapon was ever found. Joe O'Reilly was charged with the murder of his wife in 2005. The trial opened at the Central Criminal Court, Dublin, on the 25th of June 2007, before Mr. Justice Barry White and a jury of 11.
Detective Sergeant Pat Murray told the court that at 10:55 a.m. he formally charged Mr. O'Reilly with the murder of his wife, Rachel O'Reilly.
O'Reilly pleaded not guilty. The prosecution acknowledged from the outset that the case rested on circumstantial evidence. Senior counsel Dennis Vaughan Buckley told the jury that when considered in its entirety, that evidence pointed in one direction only. Over 4 weeks, the jury heard the phone records, the CCTV analysis, the email evidence, the alibi witnesses' revised accounts, Nikki Pelly's statement, the bloodstain findings from the washing machine, and the letter. A colleague who worked with O'Reilly stated that when he returned to the Viacom office around midday on October 4, 2004, his face appeared red and blotchy. On July 21, 2007, the jury returned a unanimous verdict: guilty. Joe O'Reilly was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was 35 years old.
Connolly was very concerned when she heard her daughter Rachel hadn't picked up her son from the creche on October 4th, 2004. She drove to her home in the Knoll, North County Dublin, and discovered the body of her 30-year-old daughter, barefoot, lying on the floor. She emotionally told the court how she knelt beside her, talking to her and rubbing her arms, before frantically trying to call the emergency services on her mobile. She said Rachel's husband, Joe O'Reilly, the man accused of her murder, arrived at home shortly afterwards. She said his first words to his wife were, "Jesus, Rachel, what did you do?"
As the verdict was read, Rachel's family wept in the public gallery. Detective Sergeant Pat Marry, who had led the investigation, also wept in court. Outside, Rose Callally, who had found her daughter's body, who had sat in the same room as her son-in-law for months while he told her he had nothing to do with it, addressed the media. She said, "He seemed to think he was untouchable, but he was wrong." Joe O'Reilly appealed the conviction. The Court of Criminal Appeal dismissed all grounds. The case was taken to the Supreme Court of Ireland. The conviction was upheld. He remains in custody.
The most extraordinary scenes ever seen in this court. The jury brought in a unanimous verdict after 9.5 hours of deliberating. The courtroom erupted into loud cheers and applause. The Callally family jumped to their feet and punched the air. They then burst into tears.
Supporters cheered as Joe O'Reilly was driven to Mountjoy jail in a prison van. Rachel's family watched as their daughter's killer was taken away to begin his life sentence.
We'd love to thank everybody, the police in particular. They have been so brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the prosecution team and all the people of Ireland that have been behind us with cards, letters, prayers. It all meant so much to us. And at long last, we've got justice for our darling Rachel.
Rachel O'Reilly's 2 sons were 4 and 3 years old when their mother was killed. The murder weapon has never been found.